co-op and farmers.
These girls are enjoying fresh green grass to make milk for co-op stores all over the UK.
Cheers.
So it's a big thank you from here in sunny Scotland to the co-op
for your continued support.
Holding the milk price up.
For supporting its farmers
during these tough and uncertain times.
Guaranteeing us a stable and healthy milk price means we can invest back into our business and promote milk in the best way we can for us and for you.
Helping us to do our part to feed the nation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We raise a glass to the co-op.
Here's to you. Cheers.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you, co-op.
Keep up the good work at your end, and we'll keep the delicious white stuff flowing. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, co-op and farmers.
These girls are enjoying fresh green grass to make milk for co-op stores all over the UK.
Cheers.
So it's a big thank you from here in sunny Scotland to the co-op
for your continued support.
Holding the milk price up.
For supporting its farmers
during these tough and uncertain times.
Guaranteeing us a stable and healthy milk price means we can invest back into our business and promote milk in the best way we can for us and for you.
Helping us to do our part to feed the nation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We raise a glass to the co-op.
Here's to you. Cheers.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you, co-op.
Keep up the good work at your end, and we'll keep the delicious white stuff flowing. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
co-op and farmers.
These girls are enjoying fresh green grass to make milk for co-op stores all over the UK.
Cheers.
So it's a big thank you from here in sunny Scotland to the co-op
For your continued support.
And holding the milk price up.
For supporting its farmers.
during these tough and uncertain times.
Guaranteeing us a stable and healthy milk price means we can invest back into our business and promote milk in the best way we can for us and for you.
Helping us to do our part to feed the nation.
Thank you.
We raise a glass to the co-op.
Here's to you. Cheers.
Thank you, co-op.
Keep up the good work at your end, and we'll keep the delicious white stuff flowing. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, co-op and farmers.
These girls are enjoying fresh green grass to make milk for co-op stores all over the UK.
Cheers.
So it's a big thank you from here in sunny Scotland to the co-op
For your continued support.
And holding the milk price up.
For supporting its farmers.
during these tough
And uncertain times.
Guaranteeing us a stable and healthy milk price means we can invest back into our business and promote milk in the best way we can for us and for you.
Helping us to do our part to feed the nation.
Thank you.
We raise a glass to the co-op.
Here's to you. Cheers.
Thank you, co-op.
Keep up the good work at your end, and we'll keep the delicious white stuff flowing. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
co-op and farmers.
These girls are enjoying fresh green grass to make milk for co-op stores all over the UK.
Cheers.
So it's a big thank you from here in sunny Scotland to the co-op
For your continued support.
And holding the milk price up.
For supporting its farmers.
during these tough
And uncertain times.
Guaranteeing us a stable and healthy milk price means we can invest back into our business and promote milk in the best way we can for us and for you.
Helping us to do our part to feed the nation.
Thank you.
We raise a glass to the co-op.
Here's to you. Cheers.
Thank you, co-op.
Keep up the good work at your end, and we'll keep the delicious white stuff flowing. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, co-op and farmers.
These girls are enjoying fresh green grass to make milk for co-op stores all over the UK.
Cheers.
So it's a big thank you from here in sunny Scotland to the co-op
For your continued support.
And holding the milk price up.
For supporting its farmers.
during these tough
And uncertain times.
Guaranteeing us a stable and healthy milk price means we can invest back into our business and promote milk in the best way we can for us and for you.
Helping us to do our part to feed the nation.
Thank you.
We raise a glass to the co-op.
Here's to you. Cheers.
Thank you, co-op.
Keep up the good work at your end, and we'll keep the delicious white stuff flowing. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Morning everybody and welcome to our 2020 AGM. The world's a very different place to where it was 12 months ago and we're all having to learn to do things differently and our AGM is no exception. I'm talking from my house with Steve Murrows, our CEO in the support centre in Manchester, with our group secretary Helen Grantham. 20 other members are also there to make sure we're properly core at the meeting. And this is made up of colleagues or others who are essential to putting on our AGM. We're strictly following the government guidelines, so there'll be no attendees in person at the meeting who do not need to be there to do their job. We also have joining us remotely our CFO, Shireen Curry-Hack, our REMCO Chair, Stevie Spring, and the Council President, Nick Crofts. As well as limiting attendees, government guidelines also require us to follow strict social distancing measures. Attendees will be spread over different rooms at our venue to make sure that we keep everybody safe. Some of the contributions today have been pre-recorded to make sure we can run things smoothly and limit the number of people we need to bring together. We've also come up with some new ways to allow you to put questions to us and for us to answer them, and I'll give you a bit more of that in a bit. And of course, we've asked you to register your votes in advance. These will be cast on your behalf and in line with your instructions. This meeting is formally about looking back to 2019. Shireen will cover this shortly. However, I know a great many of you are keen to understand how we've been responding to the COVID-19 crisis in the last few months, and Steve's going to focus on that in his updates. As I wrote in the annual report, our business is drawing deeply on our values of commercial responsibility and community concern to play our part in responding to these incredible times. It's our model of ownership and the values that we stand for which once again allow us to do things differently to other big businesses. Last year we adopted a new vision statement, cooperating for a fairer world, and I think you'll agree this year we've had the opportunity to demonstrate exactly what that means. Some other news I'd like to mention before we get going has come from this year's Co-op's Economy Report, which has been published over the last few days. This report shows that our Co-op is again the biggest Co-op in the UK measured by annual turnover. It's good to be back at the top of the charts. It's where we belong. But above all, that gives me another good reason to thank all our colleagues for their work last year and particularly in the last 3 months. They have been outstanding. I am so proud to be the chair of the Co-op. I'm so proud of all of our people. I'm so proud of all the things that they have done. They have been kind. Their service to our customers has been phenomenal. They've had to work in incredibly difficult circumstances and deal all the things that we've all had to deal, been absent from families and everything else. It has just been unbelievable. And that's been reflected in the way in which people talk about us and importantly, how our business has done over this period of time. I can't once again say how proud I am of them and of the Co-op and of everything they've done. And I thank them from the bottom of my heart. I also like to thank Nick Crofts and the Council. Our National Members Council is very unique to us. It's an institution that's in our business of our scale is quite unusual and it makes an invaluable contribution to our success. And I'd like to thank them too for their contribution over this period of time. Anyway, how is the meeting going to work? Well, first of all, we're going to have an update from Steve. Steve will be followed by Shireen, who's going to give us an update on the 2019 financial position. Then we'll hear from Stevie Spring, our REMCO chairman, and then we're getting an update from Nick on the council president on what the council have been up to. And following on from these presentations, we'll move on to a Q&A section, which will work as follows. Members were invited to submit questions to the AGM inbox in advance of the meeting. Some of these we've tried to respond to directly, whilst we've asked colleagues to answer others, and we'll share all of these with you today. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube live, you can ask a question by live by using the question box. A member of the Secretariat will then ask us as many of those questions as we can. I'll either respond to myself or pass it on to Steve, Shireen, Stevie or Nick, and let's see how we do. Please bear with us in this session as we're all in different locations. We're all relying on good connectivity to make this run smoothly, and my fingers are very, very crossed. This could be really, really slick or it could be really, really difficult. Following the Q&A, Steve will ask members to cast a vote on the 12 motions on the agenda. We're not using electronic voting this year, as there are only 20 members voting today, so Steve will announce indicative results of the vote for each motion. He will then announce the results of the MMD election, and the results will then be verified with the final numbers posted on our website on Monday the 8th of June. Following the vote, Steve will then wrap up. Before Steve's update, I wanted to share with you a short video of a poem written, spoken by one of our fantastic colleagues based in Manchester, Sarah Cullen, which we think sums up very well what these last few months have been like.
Our world was enormous, a whole globe to explore. Then it shrank without warning to within our front door. Restaurants lay empty, the bars shut their doors. No pints to be pulled, no drinks to be poured. Classrooms fell silent, kids stayed at home, and people were furloughed. We all felt alone. Disconnected from family, from loved ones, from friends. We followed the news feeds, asking when will this end? But our heroes kept working, filling the shelves, feeding the nation with no thought for themselves. They buried our loved ones, helped say best goodbyes. They stood by the gravesides, wiped tears from their eyes. They paid out insurance when flights were grounded, and our lorries kept rolling, our teams never floundered. They dispensed the prescriptions, counted out pills, sorted out probate and drew up the wills. They delivered the shopping and stocked up the food banks. They connected communities, and for that, we say thanks. The reason they did it? It's simple, that's true. It's because we're the Co-op. It's just what we do.
So first we're going to hear from our Chief Exec, Steve.
Thank you, Alan, and hello to all of you watching this online. I hope this finds you and your loved ones well. What an extraordinary time, and what an extraordinary set of colleagues we have. Shireen will talk you through our 2019 results in a moment, and you'll hear that we're a stronger, more agile and a better focused Co-op than we've been for many years. And that's turned out to be critical in our ability to respond to this crisis. And it's a crisis which has given us an opportunity to live out our new vision, cooperating for a fairer world, in actions as well as in our words. I couldn't start this AGM anywhere else other than by saying a huge and heartfelt thank you to all of our colleagues. Your work through this crisis has been nothing short of heroic. In particular, those of you working on the front line in our logistics depots, our food stores, funeral homes and call centres. I've been blown away by your resilience, your commitment to each other and to your local community and to our Co-op. It's been frankly humbling to see. Thousands of families across the country have lost loved ones to this virus over these last 2 months. Many of them have been supported by our colleagues in funeral care, and it's not been easy. Social distancing and isolation have meant our teams have had to get creative and innovative in the arrangement of funerals, but they've done this without losing any of their care or their compassion. For families already in mourning, COVID-19 has added another layer of pain and loss. Our colleagues have been never found wanting in helping those families to grieve together and celebrate the life of a loved one. Like Jane Pearce from our funeral care branch in Bispham Road in Blackpool, who arranged a funeral for a local entertainer. In normal times, the chapel would have been packed to the rafters. Instead, it was just his wife, his niece and Jane. On his final journey, Jane took the funeral cortege to the Working Men's Club where he sang, and the streets were lined with people who wanted to say goodbye and clap him one last time. It's these kinds of thoughtful special arrangements that are making such a difference to families. Now, every part of funeral care has stepped up to meet these challenges. The procurement team has sourced extra PPE from around the world. The property team has located and secured additional mortuary space, and the team in our coffin factory in Glasgow is working 6 days a week, and our HR function has led a massive recruitment programme, all delivered at rapid speed. As a national food retailer, we're playing a critical role in feeding the nation. Our teams in stores and logistics are delivering brilliantly under intense demand. And if we ever underestimated the capacity of our colleagues for change, we've learnt our lesson. From trading hours to purchasing restrictions, from social distancing to cleaning regimes, so much changed overnight, and our team stepped up with great energy, united by the mission of keeping our customers safe and fed. And let me give you just one example of the incredible efforts our food colleagues have been making. One day in April, our store in Sockets Heath in Essex delivered 800 bottles of water to nurses and doctors at the Queen's Hospital in Romford after they heard that the hospital's water fountains had to be turned off to prevent the spread of the virus. And these quick and meaningful actions have been taking place right across the United Kingdom. At the beginning of the lockdown, in just a few days, we recruited and trained some 5,000 additional colleagues to work in our stores and across our logistics network. We work with many companies from the leisure, hospitality and catering sectors to target our recruitment to workers who were about to find themselves out of a job. It actually was a great example of cooperation between businesses. Thank you to our new colleagues for getting stuck in so fast, and I know some of you will be staying with us for the long term. To thank our frontline colleagues in food and funerals, and in recognition that they've had to put their own health at risk despite all of the protective measures we've taken, we decided that we'd reward them with a £150 bonus and an extra day's holiday. In total, that's been a 13 million thank you to our colleagues. As a nation, we're indebted to you. You are our local heroes. And this is in addition to the teams who have been dispensing prescriptions, managing insurance claims, writing wills and managing probate. To all of you and to the thousands of our colleagues currently working from home, I want to say a huge thank you. Many of our colleagues are simultaneously full-time employees, full-time parents and full-time teachers. The boundaries of work and home have blurred, and we're grateful for the understanding of your partners and your children as we get through this extraordinary time. It really is a family effort. I can't let this moment go without also pausing to remember the colleagues we've lost to COVID-19 in these last few weeks. We're heartbroken by the news, and our teams are grieving. To their families, we offer our sincere condolences, and we're so deeply grateful for the service that they provided to our co-op. At the co-op, we only do what we do because we're passionate about the communities that we're serving. And community and cooperation have never been more important than they are right now. Our rapid response to the emergency in the last few months is built on a foundation of years of commitment led by our members across the United Kingdom. When this crisis broke, we weren't starting from scratch. We were already on the ground with good relationships and existing resources. That meant we could move rapidly, and that's what we did, putting people and communities first. We've set up the Co-op Members Coronavirus Fund, which is channeling food into food banks, funding our funeral hardship fund, and creating an extra pot of money to help our frontline community causes. We created this by inviting you, our 4.6 million members, to donate your unspent 5% member rewards. If you haven't donated yet, but want to, please log into your membership account online and follow the instructions. As you can see, the fund is already making a real difference. Millions of meals for people in real need, frontline local causes given an extra financial top-up, and hundreds of families helped with funeral costs. Our new co-op fund is in addition to the 1.5 million of food we had already pledged to FareShare and its food bank partners, and the $2.5 million of advertising airtime we used to encourage further donations to this amazing charity. We've supported our co-op academies too. From the moment the schools had to close, we issued food vouchers to all those children that receive free school meals, because no child should go hungry because of this crisis. And more recently, the Academy's Trust has given 1,000 laptops to pupils to help them study from home without being digitally excluded. A year ago, you heard me talking about the pilot for our new Cooperate platform, which has created a new way to link communities together and encourages cooperation at a local level. Well, it's really come into its own in these last few weeks. As the lockdown began, we decided to rapidly expand its functionality and bring forward its national launch. We've been using it to link together those who need help with those who can help. So we're connecting local volunteers with local vulnerable people, helping those that need to hear a friendly voice or just need their shopping or prescriptions delivered. We're learning a lot right now and can see how significant Cooperate can become in the months ahead. This has been quite a remarkable journey and a great example of a national initiative working at a hyper-local level. It's going to be a powerful way to sustain the incredible community spirit that we've seen in these last few months. Finally, I want to give a special shout out to our amazing member pioneers. We have more than 700 of them, paid colleagues, working across the country, and we're recruiting another 300 right now. They've been making a real presence on the ground, either by starting up mutual aid schemes in their areas or pitching in to help others expand their work. Caroline Beardsmore, working across Hebden Bridge and Todmorden, is a great example of the work our pioneers are doing right now. Caroline helped to set up the local COVID-19 community group in Todmorden. They've been coordinating food drop-offs in the area, supporting homeschooling by connecting local teachers to parents, and organising telephone calls to the elderly. Well done, Caroline, and all of our member pioneers. And thank you to our National Members Council too. You've championed our member pioneers right the way from the very start. And I know you've been backing all of our colleagues through these last few months. What all this shows is the power of cooperation. Our business has stepped up to meet these extraordinary challenges. Our colleagues have shown immense resilience. Communities have witnessed what co-op commitment looks like when it matters most. And we've shown what cooperation can do in a crisis. Now we need to show what it has to offer to the world when the crisis recedes. And there are still many challenges ahead for our nation and an opportunity to do these things differently as we come through the pandemic. We can show what cooperating for a fairer world can look like and bring more and more people with us on that journey. I'll have a bit more to say about that before we close the meeting. But for now, let me just thank you, our members, for believing in a better way of doing business and a better way of caring for our communities, and for supporting us and working with us through these incredibly difficult times. Thanks for now, and I'll hand you over to Shireen for a summary of last year's financial performance.
Thanks very much, Steve. And let me echo Steve's thanks to all our colleagues for how they've responded to the COVID crisis. You're working exceptionally hard and you should be very proud of what you're achieving. This is my first AGM as the Chief Financial Officer since joining the co-op last summer, and it's certainly turned into a very eventful first year. I have to begin by explaining a bit of complexity in this year's numbers. The 2019 results are more complicated than usual because of a change in accountancy reporting rules, which means that leases are now shown on the balance sheet. Now, it doesn't change how we run our business, nor the business cash flows, but it does have the effect of flattering operating profit and reducing profitability at the pre-tax line. So today I'm going to talk to you about profitability at an underlying level, as we see that as the clearest measure of our commercial strength. Revenue growth for the co-op group as a whole was up 7% in the year, mainly driven by another strong performance from our food business. On a like-for-like basis, group underlying profit before tax was £50 million, up 50% on 2018. And we should all be very pleased with that performance. Now, let's take a look at the individual business areas. Our food business has had another great year with sales of £7.5 billion, and that's up 3% on 2018, with like-for-like sales up 1.9%, beating the market once again. This continued like-for-like sales growth is now in its 6th year and reflects our great products and some wonderful product innovation. Underlying profit in food was £283 million in 2019 compared to £204 million in 2018, reflecting a very strong sales performance, but also good cost control. We launched 554 new products, including our new plant-based range called Grow, and improved more than 1,000 existing product lines. My favorite is the Grow gluten-free porcini ravioli, and I've personally been delighted to see a focus on both vegan products and gluten-free ones. We've been investing too, opening 79 new stores, refitting 152, and extending 10. We remain absolutely committed to the UK High Street. We continue to trial and extend home delivery with online same-day services made available across almost 100 towns and cities, served by 650 co-op stores. That expansion proved extremely timely as we went into lockdown. Our wholesale business recorded sales of £1.4 billion in the year compared to £1 billion in 2018, reflecting a full year of trading. The business recorded a loss of £10 million in 2019 against a restated £21 million loss in 2018 that included integration and acquisition costs. The numbers include a restatement of our results for NISA following the identification of some historical accounting errors in relation to the acquisition in May 2018. These errors arose because of control weaknesses over some finance processes within NISA, and our new finance team, which identified the issues, are working to resolve these. The loss we're reporting for 2019 does not change the merits of the NISA acquisition. We have a refreshed strategy in place, and we can see significant potential growth in the wholesale business. NISA has connected very well with the co-op over 2019, and we're seeing great collaboration between colleagues, as well as unlocking product proposition opportunities for partners. This remains a strategically important acquisition for us, enabling us to expand into 5,000 new outlets with our co-op brand in a capital-light way, generating cash and buying scale. Now, moving on to funeral care, which, as Steve said, has been playing a critical role for the nation during this crisis. In 2019, our funerals business had another challenging year, with sales and profit down on 2018, which was a situation we were already reporting at the half year. These challenges saw underlying profit fall by £13 million from £25 million to £12 million. We conducted 5% fewer funerals than the previous year. Now, we're absolutely committed to our funerals business and are in no doubt that it has a great long-term future. But like the whole of this sector, it's having to adapt quickly to a rapidly changing market. As many of you know, we agreed the turnaround strategy for the funerals business last year and have begun its implementation. Our strategy is responding to the increasing expectations for choice, affordability, and digital convenience. But of course, nothing we do will change the care and compassion that our colleagues bring to this work. And because of the incredible pressure that our funeral care colleagues are now under, we're going to reprioritize some elements of the recovery strategy so that our colleagues can focus on the current crisis. A further issue I want to share with you is that we've made the difficult decision to disagree with our external auditors over their change of view about the appropriate accounting for our funeral plan arrangements. We've continued to follow the approach we took in 2018, which our auditors signed off on last year. This means that our auditors have given a qualified audit opinion in respect of our application of the IFRS 15 accounting standard on revenue recognition. The board took this decision because we believe that the approach that we've chosen is the right one. It most clearly reflects the true commercial nature of our funeral plan arrangements, and so properly illustrates the underlying performance of the business for you, our members, and makes our accounts clear and accessible for everyone. Now on to Co-op Legal, which I'm delighted to say is making excellent progress and is really starting to punch above its weight. Legal is doing well across all of our practice areas, and in particular, probate, estate planning, and family law. In 2019, we saw a 13% increase in revenue to £40 million, and profits up £4 million to £6 million, reflecting strong growth in probate, together with operational improvements that have accelerated progression of cases. We've been developing market-leading technology, which has allowed us to create new partnerships, which are giving us strong new routes to market. We're going to continue developing that digital capability to make accessing legal help a lot more convenient. So well done to Quillen and the whole legal team. There's a very exciting journey going on in that part of the co-op. So now on to insurance, which is also going through rapid development and setting us up for long-term success. As many of you will know, our general insurance business is classified as a discontinued operation following our sale of the business to Marker Study. That deal is still working its way through regulatory approval. Meanwhile, we've been building up our capability as a distributor of insurance products without the risks associated with underwriting. In the last year, the team has done amazing work bringing to market great new products which are distinctive and cooperative. We've re-entered the life insurance market with member-designed cover that offers payment holidays for those in financial difficulty. And we introduced an innovative safe driving policy for young drivers with savings of more than £1,000. We're also taking full advantage of the benefits of being a family of businesses. In recent months, as we've raised awareness of our expanding insurance product range, we've increased customer inquiries from food stores by over 400%. Our new co-op health venture is progressing well, but it is still in its infancy. Following the launch of the new health app at last year's AGM, there were 150,000 downloads. And since the pandemic began, downloads of the app have trebled as more people look for ways to get their prescriptions fulfilled online during the lockdown. Now, let me turn to the debt position for a moment. We borrow to invest, but we always need to balance that against the interest payments we must make. We're comfortable with our net debt, which has been reduced by £69 million to £695 million. It's because of our commercial strength and the loyalty of our members that we've been able to continue to give back to local communities all across the country. £76 million was given back last year in the form of £59 million to members directly and £17 million to more than 4,400 local causes. A further £1.2 million was invested into Co-op Academy schools in 2019 as part of a 4-year commitment to invest £3.6 million. 6 new schools opened, taking the total to 24 at year-end, and we're on track for 40 schools in the next 2 years. Like many of you, I love this part of work. We're giving children a better chance in life, and we're doing it using cooperative values. We've invested in our environmental goals too. 76% of our plastic packaging is now easy to recycle, up from 72%. We've banned black plastic packaging, increased our use of recycled plastic, and rolled out the UK's first nationally available compostable carrier bag to 1,000 stores. We know plastic really matters to you, and we're driving forward as fast as possible. Showing leadership is always important on this issue, and we became the first British retailer to have science-based targets to reduce greenhouse emissions, and the first to sign the UN's Our Only Future campaign. So overall, a good year for us, driven primarily by food. Now, of course, this year is going to look very different, with factors at play which we could not have predicted just a few months ago. Looking ahead, it's clear that the COVID-19 virus is causing hugely significant disruption to the UK economy, as well as to everyday life in the country. 2020 will now be dominated by this global event. It's impossible to predict with any certainty what the full impact of COVID-19 on our business operations will be. So far, we estimate that the impact on our costs is between £200 and £275 million, including significant increases in payroll, logistics, store expenses, investment in colleague safety, and the impact of social distancing on the type and size of funerals we undertake. Some of this will be offset by increased food sales and the changes to business rates announced by the Chancellor as part of the government's COVID-19 response. With the disruption set to continue into the foreseeable future, we'll be reviewing our business planning and investment decisions regularly to ensure that they're still appropriate in these rapidly changing conditions. So thank you for now, and we're going to hear from our board director, Stevie Spring, for our remuneration report.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a very windy Westbourne Grove. This is my fifth and most challenging and challenged AGM. Not just the wind, but we're doing this under lockdown. So I'm sorry we'll miss out on our usual informal face-to-face time. But I'm happy to answer your questions later or at a later date. Now, hopefully you've had a chance to look at our remuneration report. So my job today is just to highlight what happened for 2019 and to briefly explain our approach to the decisions we made last year on all matters pay and reward. But like everyone else today, I'd like to start by adding my personal thanks to all of our colleagues for the fantastic job they're doing. They've been working tirelessly to ensure our customers and members have been able to access our great products throughout the pandemic, including, I have to say, deliveries to me at my home during the 4 weeks I had the virus. It meant a lot. They meant a lot. And I was particularly pleased that our 56,000 thank yous genuinely delighted frontline colleagues. That thank you package was very intentionally designed to be inclusive, part cash, part co-op gift card, and part extra time off. So to our execs, where we always have a difficult balance to strike, we know we have a different business model with a different way of doing business, and we know that our members, our owners, have different expectations of who should earn what. But we still need a senior leadership reward structure that's fair to them and to our members, that rewards high performance, that reflects our principles and values, and that allows us to attract and importantly hold on to the rare talent we need to run a 10 billion turnover organisation. For the first time in 5 years, we've increased salaries for 2 serving members of the executive, Jo and Helen. Jo Whitfield's salary has been increased in increments through her tenure as acting food CEO, through to fully fledged, outstanding leader of a business now with a much expanded wholesaling division. Helen Webb's role as Chief People and Services Officer is of an importance and value that was not reflected in a reward equal to other functional leads. And with the full backing of the Council Advisory Group, we've rectified that to show we value both the excellent job she's doing and the intrinsic value of our most senior people role. We also welcomed 1 new member to the exec team, Shireen, as Chief Finance Officer, on a package lower than her predecessor, which reflected, at the time, a more stable co-op. But we gave her relocation support. Shireen has moved her family north to commit to this role, and we provided financial help for her to do this. Under our policy for all necessary relocations, we pay a maximum of 50% of salary, repayable if the colleague leaves within 2 years. Turning now to bonuses, firstly for our exec team. With our balanced scorecard approach, it's not good enough to just deliver strong financial results. It has to be done in the right way, not just how much we make, but how we make it. We set challenging targets for financial results, for colleague engagement, for community contribution, and for our membership proposition. And 2019 results were strong, particularly on financials and community. So the executive earned bonuses of between 55 and 65% of their maximum opportunity. Remember, the maximum varies by individual, depending on the role. It's also important to remember that only half of the bonus awarded is paid out this year. The rest comes in 2 years' time, provided they're still in the business. 2020 will be a difficult year to plan and set targets for. Most public companies have withdrawn market guidance, but we'll continue to focus on and reward what matters most: finances, colleagues, members, and the communities we serve. 2019 also saw the last of our legacy LTIPs, our long-term incentive plans, which covered performance between 2017 and 2019. Net-net, we set what were, in hindsight, pretty unachievable targets, given our debt constraints. So there were no payouts at all for any of the 80 colleagues included on this plan, despite some pretty good performances. And that highlights one of the reasons we moved to a more flexible annual scheme that we could focus, refocus, and pivot to reflect our rapidly changing business challenges. Now let's turn to looking at our wider co-op and frontline colleagues. We've made real progress with the introduction of our new reward framework, which brings greater consistency and greater transparency to who earns what. We continue to pay above the national living wage and to apply our rates to all colleagues, unlike many other employers who pay reduced rates for younger colleagues and for apprentices. Our minimum rate went from £8.38 to £9 an hour from the 1st of April, an increase of another 7%. So we've now raised hourly pay rates for CTMs by 25% over the past 4 years. Now, improving frontline colleague pay is a key area of focus for the executive, for my committee, and indeed for the board. We want to do more, but we have to balance that with our investment in members and customers too. We're working on it. As a co-op, we also know it's not all about pay. Our wider benefits are also important, and we want our colleagues to know that we genuinely care about their well-being. In 2019, we increased help to manage health and financial well-being in a way that works for individuals, as well as promoting a culture where well-being is intrinsic to everything we do. It's become ever more important during the current health emergency, and we're communicating with our colleagues every week to give help, guidance, and support to them and to their families. I've not been given much time this year, but I've tried to focus on the areas that members tell me matter to them. Throughout 2020, we'll continue to review our approach to pay to make sure it's working as we intended and stays in line with our reward philosophy. We'll monitor the extraordinary times our extraordinary teams are operating in, and we'll take this into account when we're determining the final pay outcomes at the end of what we know will have been the most extraordinary year. So on your behalf, I'd like to thank the committee for the work they do. I'd like to thank the Council Remuneration Working Group, very ably led by Leslie Resnicek, for their challenge and support. It's genuinely extremely useful, and I'm proud of what we achieved together. And I'd like to thank you, our members, for your support voting for the annual report on remuneration. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Nick Crofts, President of the National Members Council. I'm glad to have the opportunity to join our AGM. We meet virtually, of course, during a global crisis of extraordinary scale and reach. COVID-19 will be the defining moment for very many of our lives. And how our co-op responds both to the immediate emergency, but also to the long tail of its aftermath, will determine our place in the UK for decades to come. And our co-op has responded by living our cooperative values. There's so much for our members to be proud of. From the establishment of the Coronavirus Fund and our sale of the Big Issue in stores, to the launch of the Cooperate platform and our free school meals for academy school students. And of course, there's one golden thread that links all of these together. Our colleagues. Each and every day, they have risen magnificently to the task of keeping the nation together. And on behalf of the National Members Council, I want to pay tribute to each and every one of our colleagues. In every store and depot, in every funeral home and office, in every nation and region, all of our colleagues everywhere, you have been the front line. Thank you so much for all that you've done. We're incredibly proud of you. And our hundreds of member pioneers have also shown themselves to be the glue binding our communities together, doing so much good and helping our communities to thrive when it's needed now more than ever. Members coming together with members to support one another through the crisis. This is cooperation in action. And I'm so grateful to all of our member pioneers for everything that they've done. It's not easy, of course, during a moment of crisis to look back, but it has been a busy year for the Council. Over the last 12 months, Council was proud to champion our Safer Colleague, Safer Community campaign, because it's just wrong that retail workers suffer abuse, intimidation and violence just for doing their jobs. More than 600 of our colleagues made submissions to the government's call for evidence, sharing sometimes horrific stories of violence and abuse. And sadly, we've been waiting for the government to respond for more than a year. So the Council led the campaign of letter writing to members of Parliament, asking that the government finally respond and take action to better protect retail workers. Council knows what happens when members come together with members to campaign. So we designed a join-in opportunity to encourage our members to support the campaign and to write to their local MP. More than 3,000 individual letters have now been sent. COVID-19 has proven once and for all just how vitally important retail workers are to the life of the nation. But our members, of course, have always known. And despite the crisis, the Council continues to work, holding the board to account and influencing the business on behalf of our members. As always, Council provides challenge and support. Quite rightly, we challenge the board to do more, to go faster, to be bold. And Council work with the board to shape the society's new vision, cooperating for a fairer world. This shared vision could hardly be more relevant than right now. Challenge and support, that is cooperation. And cooperation too from the tens of thousands of members that voted in the AGM and elections. Thank you to all of you for participating in the co-op that you own. Congratulations to all of the successful council candidates, and thanks to everybody for putting yourself forward in the election. There is a very big job of work ahead for council. We know that it's not just what our co-op does, but how we do it that is key. It shouldn't take a pandemic to prove the impact that humans have on our shared planet. Cooperators have always known we care about the world we share. Sustainability goes to the heart of what we are as a co-op, and it will be our co-op values that help shape the world that will come after the crisis. We've shown through our actions that self-responsibility, equality, solidarity and honesty are timeless values that continue today to change lives for the better. By caring for others, we've demonstrated our concern for all of our communities. We've lived our values every day. Cooperation works. Cooperation has never been more needed, and it is cooperators that will own the future. Thank you.
Thank you all for that. Now we'll move to the Q&A session. We've had some questions already sent in to us. We've asked colleagues who we feel are best placed to respond by pre-record, and we will share the questions and their answers with you first. Then we're going to take any questions that are live from members. And remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please type your questions in the comments box. This will be picked up by one of our colleagues and then passed to me. I will then answer them myself or get Steve, Shireen, Steve or Nick to do. We want to aim to answer as many questions as we possibly can. So please keep your questions short. Please, all of you, keep your fingers crossed. This could be fun. Thanks.
So we've been working throughout the crisis with Fair Trade, One Water and all of our suppliers to identify where the greatest need has been. We've worked to support thousands of suppliers. We've joined special webinars to really understand how to help their workers during this crisis. And in addition, we've put extra money in to support clean water projects, and we've allocated funds for emergency help to fair trade farmers and also public health and medical aid work. We play a vital role in supporting these communities through the trade that we do with them during normal times, and we've absolutely stepped up to do the right thing during times of crisis. So we know that there are many customers who are unable to reach our stores, and our priority is to ensure nobody goes without food. Co-op Online is a small but growing operation. We are now open in over 500 of our stores, and we reach over 1,200 catchments. So whilst it's not nationwide yet, we've really accelerated, especially during crisis. We've got hundreds of slots available, and we keep reviewing this. Our orders are picked in store and deliveries are made via third-party partners. We've been working really closely with them to really look at further initiatives, looking at how we can step up delivery slots. And we've also got a volunteer scheme up and running that can deliver to those who are in an area but are not supported by our online service. So we did quickly set up a trial, but we knew we'd need new processes to be able to take safe payments and also recruit colleagues for a central contact centre to be able to offer deliveries on a national scale. So in 5 weeks, we established a scheme which matched volunteers with the vulnerable and also provided safe and secure payments for them to purchase a payment-loaded gift card that they can use on that individual's behalf. In addition to this scheme, we also launched a school voucher scheme to help with children that would normally get free school meals. We set up our own scheme to support the nationwide scheme that government had introduced, given the challenges that that was encountering, and also because we've got such fabulous reach to help vulnerable families. And then the final part of the puzzle was really rolling out our online delivery service, which is now out with more than 500 stores, which really does give shoppers convenient access to food from the comfort of their own homes and the safety of their own homes. So thanks for the question, Simon, regarding cycle parking facilities at our stores. Encouraging emission-free trips to our stores is really important, and we know many of our customers visit us on foot and on bike, which is great, especially as we're so local for so many of our customers. And also, as you'll know, Co-op is committed to cutting carbon emissions and reducing our own carbon footprint at the same time. And it's great that we're actually working on an exciting new piece of activity with Greater Manchester Council, which is an initiative regarding cycling and walking. So very much something that we want to understand and try and progress with. I'm pleased to tell you that whenever we open a new store, we always look at installing cycle racks. And also, as we refit any store, we take the opportunity again to review the cycle parking provision and actually increase the number of racks wherever it's safe to do so. It's very much a case that we want to encourage people to be able to travel in a very carbon neutral way, and we absolutely look to make the best provision we can wherever possible. In particular, I asked the team to check out with your local store on Eccleshall Road in Sheffield, and I'm pleased to report to you that they've come back and said that they've got 4 cycle racks outside the store that are ready and waiting for you to use.
It's great to hear that you're pleased with our approach to ethics and sustainability and that you support our continued commitment to transparent and honest reporting of our progress. As a co-op, doing what we say we will do and being held to account is core to how we operate and important in maintaining the trust of all of our members and shoppers. With reference to plastic, back at the AGM in 2018, members voted in favour of our commitment to move all of our own brand packaging to easy to recycle by 2023, and I'm really delighted to say that we've made amazing progress on this. COVID-19 has obviously impacted the pace we can move and slowed us down a little bit, but we're aiming that by early 2021, that's 2 years ahead of our original target, all co-op own brand packaging will be easy to recycle at home or in store when we launch our unique co-op fund recycling scheme. I'm also happy to share that we've reduced the amount of plastic we use consistently over the last few years and are on track to reduce the plastic footprint by a further 6% this year, which equates to around 1,400 tonnes of plastic that won't be placed on the market.
Roger, thank you for your question. As you infer, we're currently making savings on claims costs as a result of customers driving less. In part, these savings are counterbalanced by the increased costs of implementing home working. And of course, we've no idea whether claims patterns will be more severe once the lockdown is lifted. That said, we consciously decided to focus our initial attention on those customers made vulnerable by COVID, and therefore those most in need, in particular those unable to afford their insurances. We've taken a range of actions to help, including waiving excesses on claims, extending the duration customers can remain in temporary accommodation, extending cover on empty properties without charge, adjusting the anticipated mileage of customers without a fee, extending the duration of vehicle hire, offering greater flexibility within products at no cost, increasing cover for key workers and volunteers, deferring premiums, and in the case of severe hardship, we've used the anticipated claims savings to create a hardship fund to support the most vulnerable by paying their premiums. We've done this throughout lockdown in dialogue with the Financial Conduct Authority, and we'll keep the situation constantly under review. What we've chosen to do isn't as headline grabbing as an arbitrary refund, but hopefully our focus has meant we've helped those in the greatest need.
So we have a few questions already from Rem, which I'd like to take all together actually because they're overlapping, from Mark Patterson, from Richard Howard, and from Will Crisp. And unsurprisingly, they are all on the topic of frontline colleague pay. Mark wanted to know how or when we would see a greater commitment to improving our rates and setting an example. Richard is asking for us to pay the real living wage, which is £9.30 outside London and £10.75 in London. And Will, who voted against both me and the DRR because of variable executive pay being too high when we're not paying real living wages to frontline colleagues. As I say, I think all of those are very similar questions, and they are all around when are we going to turn up the volume? Now, you've heard me say almost every year, in fact every year, for the last 4 or 5 years, that this is my prime priority. You've also heard me say that for every 1.5p that we increase our hourly rate, that costs us an extra £1 million a year off our surplus or off the other investments that we are making in our products, in our infrastructure, in our pricing. So if we were to look at an extra 30p, for example, that would cost £20 million, and that's before we look at the inevitable erosion of differentials, which will put that up even higher. So these are big challenges. I said in my remarks earlier that it is at the absolute top of the agenda for me, for my executive, for my committee, for my board. And all I can say is bear with us, we are working on it. But we absolutely appreciate that members are focused on how we pay frontline colleagues, particularly at a time when we are badging them and recognising them as key workers, which indeed they are.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everybody. We're now come to the live part of the AGM, so welcome to this bit. This is going to be no doubt the most interesting piece because we're going to try and do this live with technology. So we had, as you saw there, a number of questions that we got pre-asked because we wanted to get individual colleagues from around the business to be able to answer those. Now we're going to try and go to some live questions, and remember the way to put your questions is to use the chat box. We've got Adam Barker there in Manchester for us. He's going to read the questions off. He'll pass the questions to me. I will either try and answer them myself or I will pass those around to somebody. So as I said earlier on, this could be the very interesting bit. This is going to be the test of our technology and our ability to answer questions at the same time, probably. So, Adam, have you got any questions so far that you can pass on?
Hi, Alan. Yeah,
Hi,
the
Adam,
first question is from Paula. I'm good, thanks. Paula would like to know, do you think it's a good idea to offer members the chance to donate all of their points or member awards to chosen charities in future, as you did recently with the Coronavirus Fund?
Okay, that's a very good question, Paula. Thank you for that. I think I'll probably pass that on to Steve because I know this is something he's thinking about. So this is the question, Steve, about whether we think this is a good idea going forward to get members basically to be able to donate their points to charities and causes, all of their points in the future. Steve.
Alan, thank you, and Paula, thanks for the question. I think in truth, we're testing it. COVID's given us the chance to see whether or not it's something that members really value. Certainly the exec team think it's really important, and it's a way in which members can effectively make a difference in their local communities. We're pleased with what we've seen so far. We've been able to raise close to 400,000 so far through the COVID fund in this way, and we'll keep monitoring it. I think it's one of the most important differences that we have within our member scheme, but we'll let members decide for us.
Good, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Paula. I think Steve's right. That's something that we're going to continue to monitor. What we've had so far from members has been phenomenal, and I think it's all part of, you know, how people are thinking about what they do with their monies and their funds and their points at this moment in time. Many more of our members are thinking about what they can do for other people with what they've got there. So, critical thing. Adam, what else have you got?
So the next question is from Peter. He'd like to know, are there any plans to introduce two-way communications between council members and members, as this does not seem to happen in Scotland at the moment, apart from the occasional live event?
Sorry, Adam, I just missed the end of that. Could you just repeat that one for me?
Questions from Peter. He'd like to know, are there any plans to introduce two-way communications between council members and members, as this doesn't seem to happen at the moment, apart from in Scotland, where there's the occasional live event?
Okay, good question, Peter. I'm going to pass that over to Nick, actually, who's in his kitchen. Nick, can you pick that question up?
Yes, indeed I can. Thank you, Alan, and thank you for the question, Peter.
Really important aspect of the work of council members is broader communication about the work that we do with our member pioneers and with members at large. It's difficult when you've got 4.6 million members, but we have taken some big steps forward. There are now constituency email addresses that members can use to contact their council representatives directly. And there's also the Cooperate platform, which will bring council members, member pioneers and members together.
Okay, good. Thank you, Nick. Pete, good question on that. I think all the comms things we need to have a bit of a think about in the new world anyway. I mean, I know Nick's not been able to run council meetings and things like that. We've got to find, and be doing a lot of communication, you know, the way we're doing it now. So I think that's a really good question and really good thought. Adam, what else have we got?
So the next question's from Julian, who'd like to ask about the replacement of own brand products with mainly branded ones, which are more expensive and members can't earn their 5% on, especially soups and yoghurt lines. So you'd like to see more own brand products.
Okay. Well, that's a very good question, Julia. I've actually also had a bit of a go about soups, as I'm a bit of a soup merchant. I've been talking to the team about getting us some more soups in our local store. But I think actually I'll pass it to Steve to pick that question up. But I just, Julia, it's really worth thinking about. You know, own brand, Co-op own brand is really important to us. It's been a great reason for our success over the last few years. The quality of the products has been, you know, increased significantly, superb. And of course, you know, a great thing about our Nice acquisition is we've now got that own brand in those stores too. So our whole idea is, you know, to widen the distribution of Co-op brand and make it more and more available in more and more communities. And we've done that, you know, quite significantly. You know, I put our own brand right up there now. With anybody else's, you know, we can compete in every which way and form. But let me put it on to Steve to add his comments, particularly on soup, Steve.
Julian, thanks for the question. I think the chair's actually answered it for me, although we've got much to do on soups by the sound of it. You know, this has been one of the big change programs that Joe's continued to provide outstanding food with the Co-op label on the packaging. And everybody, I think, that buys Co-op own brand sees a wonderful product, enjoys it and comes back for more. And as we now have our wholesaling business, we're getting own brand into thousands of more outlets, generating close to 3 million additional sales a week. So it's critical to food strategy. It will become even more critical in the recession that is just around the corner, where price is going to be so important, because we know our own branded products are so much cheaper than brands. So I'm confident that the food team will be working out how to give it more space in all of the stores, because it deserves it, and it actually drives one of the most important reasons why people come to shop in our stores. So it's a thumbs up from me, but clearly we've got a bit more to do on soups, Joe, so if you could take that on board, that would be great.
Good. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Good question again. Own brand, top of everybody's mind, top of ours. Adam, what else have you got?
So the next question's from Christopher. He'd like to know, is the return on capital employed figure sufficient for the society to continue capital investment to modernise the business whilst remaining profitable and sustainable in the long run?
Well, that is a very good question, and it's a question that we regularly look at. I mean, we spend a lot of money on capital, as you know, and we're very generally very, very good with that investment. And it's something that the board and the audit committee review on a 2 or 3 times a year basis. So we review you know, the last 12 months of capital expenditure and look at the return on capital on that. And I have to say, our track record is very, very good. Our investment in our food food portfolio is particularly strong. You remember one of the reasons we have, some of the, well, probably the highest operating margin in food in the country at this moment in time is partially because of the development we've had in new stores and how we've invested our capital. So it is something that's very much top of mind, something that we are very good at. We have a great property team, we get great locations. We're very strong in the procurement area in terms of making sure that how we kit things out. We buy well because we buy bulk. It's worth remembering, we probably have one of, if not the biggest store opening program in the country, and have had for the last 3 years. So that's given us some real leverage. Shireen, is there anything you'd like to add to that from a CFO perspective?
Alan, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can absolutely hear you. Yeah.
Alan, the only other thing that I would just add is you mentioned that the board reviews this regularly. It was just at the last board meeting that we looked at the return on our investments. The only other thing that I'd want to mention is, as we mentioned before, these really are unprecedented times. So while we generally keep a very close eye on our capital investments, it's even more close now, in that things change so rapidly. So we're very carefully managing our capital, we're very carefully managing our cash and our debt, and we're doing this on a monthly basis and not even waiting for our regular forecasts. So it's an even closer look at what we spend our money on and whether it's going to be good value for money, given the context that we're in.
Good. Thank you very much. Very good question, Chris. Very good question. Adam, what else have we got?
So the next question is from Sean, and it's about promotion of fair trade. This fair trade fortnight, there seem to be fewer products, no promotion of the discount, and nothing in stores to say that the Co-op is a champion of fair trade. What's gone wrong?
Good question, Sean. I'm going to get Steve to answer it in detail, but believe you me, we are very much the champion of fair trade. It's something that's really, again, important to us. I think it's a big part of our difference, frankly, because fair trade is a well-known symbol of what fair trade really is. As you know, there's sort of lots of different people come up with, trying to do it in a different way, call it a different thing. I think fair trade is the best there is out there. I think we are probably the leading light in fair trade, and certainly in wines and things like that. We are leaders of the pack. And interestingly, Hazel Blears, who's one of the member-nominated directors, was down in Argentina towards I think it was at the early part of this year, towards the end of last year, and went out to one of our fair trade vineyards, basically. And it's not just the way we support them in terms of buying product, is how that money goes back into their communities, because the communities we care for are clearly our own in the UK, but clearly those fair trade communities too. So very much the champion, but let's put your question to Steve about fair trade fortnight. Steve.
Alan, thank you. Sean, let me start with the numbers, and the numbers tell us that we've enjoyed another good year on fair trade, with good growth and growth ahead of the competition. So I'm a little bit surprised that you felt that we'd gone backwards. There is no doubt, though, I think that if we could persuade our fair trade colleagues to move fair trade fortnight to a different time in the year, the stores could create a lot more excitement around fair trade products. As you know, at the moment, it falls in a very busy period for our food business, where it's always competing with other things. If we could move it, then I think we'd actually punch again and grow even faster. The commitment by the buying team, though, I've seen dramatically change since I've been here. And if you look at those seminal areas of flours, sugar, etc., we've completely got behind the fair trade programme, and as Alan has just alluded to, really supported those fair trade businesses throughout that period, and more recently have done great things to keep fair trade producers going during this difficult COVID time. So there's more we can do. Let's leave it with the food team to see if we can move the period of time in which we get after it. But certainly what I see on the shop floor is a continual commitment, and one where we are growing faster than the competition and celebrating fair trade products far more than anybody else.
Good. Okay. Great question, Sean. So, your question is, can we shout about it a bit more? There's no doubt we're doing more, but can we shout out a bit more? Adam, what else have we got?
So the next question is from Niall, and it's one for Nick Crofts. Niall says, I've really enjoyed this format today, but given that members have not been able to attend the AGM this year as a result of COVID-19, how can members have a say in their co-op?
Good question, Niall. And I think it's something that, as I say, going to be with us for a period of time, not just now. So it's quite a difficult question. So as it's difficult, I'm going to give it to Nick.
Nicely dodged there, Alan. And thanks for the question, Niall, and thanks for the feedback as well. I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. I'm glad it's worked. Alan's been really nervous, as everyone can tell. So engaging with members and giving them an opportunity to have a say in the co-op that they own is a gigantic priority for Council. And this digital AGM, I think, is an interesting exemplar because we've been doing some other digital things as well. So for a while now, we've been sourcing questions ahead of our council meetings that council members have then been able to put to the directors and to the business. We've also been receiving questions during the council meetings through social media, which have been really helpful. One of the motions on the AGM agenda today was crowdsourced by one of our council members. Cat Rose from Yorkshire and the Humber reached out to members to look for the subject matter for one of today's motions. So I hope that members vote in favour of that. That's quite important. Our member pioneers, of course, have been doing fantastic work. We heard from Steve earlier that the Cooperate platform was launched early, and that gave an opportunity for member pioneers to bring members together to support communities, and it could hardly have been more important than this time. We're still recruiting member pioneers, as we heard from Steve. There are 300 vacancies, so if you're interested in getting involved in that way, then please do. We'd love to have you join us as a member pioneer. It's a massive priority. And again, the details for that are on the Cooperate platform. And then the other thing to mention, of course, is Join In. Join In is our platform that enables members to share their thinking on products and services and campaigns. We really value the feedback. It's a really innovative thing that the co-op has been doing. I'm hugely proud of it. 250,000 members have now joined in. If you haven't yet, please register. We'd love to have your feedback. And then the final thing, Alan, just to say, is that Council will be, if it's possible, holding our Join In Live events later in the year. We'll be holding them all across the UK. These are localised members' meetings, really important opportunity to draw members together face to face. So if it's possible for us to do so with social distancing guidelines and so forth, we'll be doing that later in the year. So keep your eyes open.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Niall. Thank you, Kat. She sends me about 3 emails a week with different ideas. A great member of the council. And I think also on the join in piece, I'm with Nick. I think this has been a breakthrough because generally it's been quite difficult for members to communicate, and it's been a communication thing. The join in thing is more than communication because it's great feedback for us and for the operators in the business about what's working, what's not working, about products, because members are consumers too. And so I'm a big supporter of that. And the fact we've got, had 250,000 members join in tells you something that members feel that it's a good way too. So thank you, Niall, for that question. Very, very good question. Let's all join in. I think that's the message. Adam, what else have we got?
So we've had a few questions from colleagues, so Mark and Nathan, around how changing the way we are working in stores and also more colleagues working from home during the current crisis has been crucial in delivering our customer offer. Will we be looking to keep streamlining tasks in the future?
That is a very good question. I think along with lots of other progressive organisations, one of the things that we're all thinking about as a result of COVID is we're all having to reimagine the way we do things, the way we work, the way we live, everything. And there's no doubt that there will be changes. And we've learned a huge amount. It's been a terrible crisis and still is. And the effects having on anybody is incredible. But there's a huge amount of learning in it in lots of areas. Things I think have accelerated 10 years in a relatively short period of time because they've had to. I know this is something Steve has really been thinking about. So Steve, let me hand this question over to you.
Great question. And definitely it's something that's on my mind and on the exec's mind as well. There is no doubt a paradigm shift has taken place. And what's important is that we move forward with all the new things that we now know, the things that we've done really well. And interestingly, it will also give us a chance to stop some of the things that we'd be less proud of. But as part of this period, we will be coming back with a full review of how we want to operate, how we want and would like all of colleagues to operate as we move forward. What's most important is actually gaining colleagues' views and opinions, and Helen Webb's team, through various questionnaires, is getting a real understanding of what's important for colleagues working from home, being more flexible. Do we need large offices anymore? So a full review is already underway, and I think it will make us a stronger co-op as a consequence going forward.
Thank you, Steve. Great question. Adam.
So the next question is from Tim. Tim says, I have a co-op funeral plan. You reported bad results for funeral care. Is my plan a safe investment?
Well, the short answer to that, Tim, is very much so, yes. The two things are very disconnected. So your co-op funeral plan is very, very safe. Is something that we protect, and talk about significantly. So the answer is yes. And actually, our funeral business, and I'll get Steve to add to this. Our funeral business has had a difficult year, but actually in the last 3 months has been incredible. The way Steve articulated it is that the way our funeral colleagues have had to deal with the situation, and the way in which they've done it with in tremendous empathy for the bereaved and the change in circumstance has been phenomenal, and that will stand us in very good stead in the future, because so much of the funeral business is that piece of it. So I'm incredibly proud of what they've done. They're very, very difficult circumstances, but we're very confident that we will create and recreate a very strong funeral business. And interestingly, to Steve's point, I think actually the way we have looked after the bereaved in this last 3 months actually will stand us in incredibly good stead for the future, because we are seen as that caring, sharing co-op that we all know that we are. Steve, do you want to add anything to that, particularly on the funeral plan piece?
I think just a couple of points to echo what you've said, Alan. One is the reassurance for Tim. There's an actuary valuation that's done every year to do precisely what you're concerned about, to make sure that there are enough funds to cover all of the funeral plans that we have. And I can assure you that there is, and that actuary review is done every year. And then I think this wider point about businesses being judged in how they've acted during this terrible time is going to play out well for us. You know, we've taken a stance very much about putting people first before profits, actually, and doing the right thing. And I see it and I read about it every day with our funeral colleagues, the care and the service that they've provided. Bearing in mind the volumes have doubled in these weeks is quite remarkable. So we're confident that doing the right thing in the mid and the long term will be an important part of our turnaround strategy for funerals.
Yeah. So, Tim, I hope that reassures you. And I don't know if you all felt the same as me. I've unfortunately seen that Sarah Cullen's poem that was done at the beginning 2 or 3 times. And I find it quite emotional, actually, and I find it very emotional. And the bit there that's the most emotional, Pete, I think, is the bit that's to do with the funerals. So, you know, once again, I call out for our colleagues in terms of what they've done beyond the call of duty by someone. Adam, what else have we got?
So we've had a couple of questions through on the theme of NISA from Robert and Amy. NISA don't currently recognise co-op membership cards. Will there be an opportunity for me to use my co-op membership card in NISA stores in the future, please?
Good question, Robert and Amy. And I'm glad you mentioned, NISA, that, as you saw, we've had a couple of issues from an accounting perspective, which our team uncovered, which we've resolved, and try now we'll find out, exactly why and what, and do something off the back of that. However, we are really pleased with that acquisition, their performance in over the same period of time as ours has been excellent. They're very much in the communities. They're an extension of what we do. The co-op brand is growing significantly in that organisation. We're very pleased with that and believe that it was strategically a very good acquisition. As you know, they sell our own brand. Steve, I'll get you to comment on the membership card, but also you might want to add just a few comments about NISA generally.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. I think from the moment that we acquired NISA, we wanted to preserve some important parts of membership. And that very much has been the case in that we've deliberately held the membership value scheme for those members that walked into a co-op store. Clearly a NISA owned store that has franchised across to a co-op fascia would get the member reward. But at the moment, we've tried to keep a wall between the two. And I think that's been the right thing for us to do. As always, we'll continue to review this. We know that we need to test the evolution of membership from a value scheme to a value and value scheme. And I think we'll take it away and reflect on the question. But it's been very deliberate to keep it with the benefit of walking into a co-op store at this moment in time. And I think just to echo the point of the acquisition, strategically, that deal was right when we did it, and it's very right today. It gives us a huge reach to sell co-op owned branded products in a really capital light way. We're not having to build more new stores beyond a very strong opening store program. And yet within 18 months, Joe's team's been able to get own brand food into a further 5,000 stores. It's also allowed us to drive over 80 million additional cash into the business. And as we said, drive our buying scale, providing an additional 50 million in better terms. So it's a business that we know we can scale. And I'm really looking forward to the coming years and seeing how the food team are going to do that.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Robert and Amy. Good questions on NISA. NISA, I always call it NISA. Adam, what else?
So next question's from Lee, who asks, how are we doing with diversity within the upper tiers of management, given the co-op operates in a number of diverse communities?
Well, I'll get Steve to comment on that. I'm one of the things I'm very proud of at board level and executive level is our diversity. I think at board level we probably have the most diverse board, I would say, in the UK, and at executive level, again, our diversity is very strong. So I would get Steve perhaps to add from an executive level, but I can tell you from a board perspective, I would say we are the leading organisation in the UK in diversity at a board level. Steve?
So look, I mean, it's a great topical question because obviously a part of diversity will be what's playing out in Minneapolis and the tragic death of George Floyd. I think on a gender level, as Alan says, at a senior level, we're in pretty good shape with really good representation on the board and at the exec level. And in truth, at the exec level, with just Matt and myself, we are very much dominated by outstanding women. We know we've still got more to do through the organisation, and Helen and her team are regularly upweighting the amount of female great leaders. Sam Tyra would be one example, and very recently Shireen coming on to the exec team. I think in this whole area of diversity, though, inclusion is the overall umbrella, and we've got to now put the turbos on and make real change and make sure that what we do chimes with the words that we say. There is no doubt, I think the last week gives us all an opportunity to go up a gear and certainly eradicate racism, have clear pathways for BAME individuals to really flourish in the co-op. But, you know, I think overall for me, it's not just gender, it's colour, it's religion, and these are things that make the co-op very unique. And so I'm very keen that we set some challenging targets going forward now so that we can look back, see real change and be an employer of choice for all colours and creeds and genders in the UK.
Good, thank you, Steve. And I think we all agree with that. The fact that it's topical now is ridiculous. It's something that's been topical for a long period of time, and you know our aim is to be the most diverse and inclusive organisation in the UK. And I think you also have to remember so much of this is, you know, we're in the community probably more than anybody else is in the community, and all our colleagues in the community, you know, largely reflect those communities, and that's, you know, that is for me also as important as what it is at the top of the organisation. It's what is it in the communities that we're in. If we're going to be part of the community, then we need to be part of the community and what that community shape and looks like. So very, very good question. Adam?
So the next question is from Rebecca, who asks, how have you been supporting colleagues' mental health during the current crisis, especially those in funeral care whose hard job has been 100 times harder?
That is a great question, Rebecca, and is something that has been very much top of our mind through all of this. I'll get Steve to take you through it, but through Helen Webb, who is our HR director. Helen is absolutely wedded to this. It's something we've been dealing for a period of time, in truth. And as you know, I'm very much part of the foundation. A lot of the foundation work has always been around that mental health, particularly in youth, where the foundation has done some fantastic work. But Steve, do you want to just comment on the work that Helen's been doing and basically how seriously we're taking this?
Yeah, of course, and I think Alan's point's well made. We've been championing in this space for some time, since the loneliness campaign a few years back, that has allowed us to move seamlessly into mental health and well-being, and others, I think, are catching up from where we are. On the specific on funerals, I've had the chance to listen to the weekly check-ins that Sam and her team do with all of the managers each week, which is really quite humbling to listen to, and it's designed very much to make sure that the managers hear that they're supported, that we're here for them, that we understand the challenges that they're going through, in order for them to echo those words back down onto the ground floor with the colleagues who are dealing with the challenges that they are. So I'm seeing now, on the specific in funerals, a real flow, a conduit flow of understanding, listening, and helping when people call out. And one of the most important things about this whole area is giving colleagues the confidence to say something, to say where they need help. Helen's wellbeing programme through the crisis has really put us in a strong place. On some of the specifics around COVID, we're seeing two groups of people: those that are on their own, probably in a flat with no garden, desperately needing contact. And then we have the pressures of families, two parents working, trying to teach their kids at the same time, and looking for some form of mental relief from that. But it very much is in the thinking of the organisation, something that the board is keen for us to keep accelerating forward. But there's much more to do. But the most important thing is conversation, asking the right questions, and then acting on what people are asking for us to do for them.
Thank you, Steve. Very good question again. Adam, I think we'll have a couple of more if we can. So if you give us the next one, and then we'll probably have another one after that.
Okay, so the next question is from Christopher, who says the Society has 4.8 million members. What plans does the Society have to ramp up the membership engagement, which is a largely untapped resource?
Sorry, Adam, I was a bit of a noise in my ear then. Could you just repeat that again for me?
Sure. The Society has 4.8 million members. What plans does the Co-op have to ramp up membership engagement, which is a largely untapped resource?
Okay. Christopher, very good question. I think I'll sort of split this, actually. I think, Nick, I might get you to make a few more observations, sort of where it is, and then pass it over to Steve. So, Nick, do you want to have a little go at that to start with?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Great question, Christopher. And
absolutely grounded in the view that our millions of members are our biggest resource. And I think that's absolutely correct, and that's certainly the view that the council would have. So I talked a bit before about the opportunity for two-way communication between council members and member pioneers, and I think that's going to be a really important part of this. And then in the environment that we're in now, because of the crisis, but also because we're all becoming much more acquainted with digital tools, we've all been Zooming, we've all been using Teams, we've all been FaceTiming, etc., etc. I think the digital toolkit that we'll be having to engage with members is going to become increasingly important. So the really interesting question, picking up on Alan's point about his huge support for Join In, is how we as a co-op can take the next step. So 250,000 members joining in is fantastic, but we should regard that as being just the beginning. I think we can be much more ambitious, and we should be striving to get many more of our members involved, because the insight that they have, the passion that they have, the extraordinary awareness of things like fair trade and our products is absolutely invaluable. And it's one, frankly, that no other organisation has. And as well as being the right thing to do because we're a co-op, there's a big commercial advantage for us as a business in deepening the relationships that we have with our members. So it's difficult, but it should be a no-brainer.
Steve, do you want to have a little go?
I mean, I'd just echo what Nick says. Certainly in Join In, we've found a thing that actually really resonates with members, and the numbers show us that it's what they really enjoy doing. I think the trick will be, what are the suite of things that we can do more of in the future? Personalised offers is something that we trialled during last year. It's really resonated, and I know there is a programme to turn that back on, turn the volume up, and provide greater value for members. As Nick says, they buy more of our products than anybody else, so why wouldn't we want to find new levers to encourage them to do that? We're not just a food business, we're a portfolio of businesses. Cross-trading is an obvious area where value can be given back to members. So a whole suite of things which I think you'll start to see more of as we evolve the scheme in these next 12 months.
Yeah, so Christopher, that's a really good question. But I think the other thing we all need to remember, that we're all members and that we're owned by ourselves. And cooperating for a fairer world isn't just something that the organisation does, it's what all our members do. The power will be all of our members are cooperating for a fairer world, and that's what we've got to unleash. That's our big piece of difference. That's what our movement gives us, and I think we're untapped. You know, I think we're untapped, and it's something that we have to really unlock and unlock now, because now is the time. We've said this many times, but I think now we all believe that. So Adam, can we just have the sort of last question, please? So make it a humdinger.
Okay, Alan, I'll do my best. We've had a number of questions in the area of sustainability. So do we have a strategy in place for achieving greater sustainability across our co-op? Is there a report format where this can be found? And do we have a strategy to focus on green emergence from the COVID-19 crisis that we're currently in?
That is a humdinger. As it is a humdinger, the best answer of our humdinger questions is Steve. Steve, nicely set up, over to you.
Thanks, Alan. Great question. Before I answer it, I should just say that Joe Whitfield has confirmed that suits will be fixed, Alan. So look forward to that in the coming months. Look, I mean, sustainability, climate change, those have been issues at the forefront of the Co-op for decades. We already mentioned the commitment around carbon emissions going forward. That's a bigger commitment than any organisation today. But as you know, we want to go further. And I think COVID acts as a brilliant springboard to remind everybody, frankly, that the issues on the climate have been helped quite dramatically by the fact that we haven't been in our cars, industries haven't been harmfully affecting our planet, and so it gives us good thought going forward. The way that we'll communicate progress is through the Co-op Way report. The sustainability programme sits very much within putting our community plan on steroids, which we talked about a year ago when we were framing cooperating for a fairer world, the vision for the group. So it's front and centre in our plans going forwards. We are ahead in many areas, but I think there's also a level of realism, which is this will just become the norm of how businesses should work. Everybody will be trying to go faster than each other. And in a way, that's a good thing. If the Co-op can encourage the rest of the country and the world to do what's right for the climate, then actually that's great. We don't necessarily have to always be first, but what we want to do is make sure that this planet that we enjoy is here for many, many years more. So the programme is live. Mike Fletcher has huge energy around this. There's some really good progress that we're making, and I think it's right that we continue to drive in this area. It's what our members encourage us to do, and you know the motions of last year set us very much on that journey.
And Steve, do you want to just mention about reporting?
So we'll use the Co-op Way as the vehicle to report, and I think we'll also consider other communication lines, Alan, because it's such a topical thing for our members to hear about.
Okay, good, brilliant, thank you. So I think we'll proceed. I have a sort of, I think these, you know, when you do virtual stuff, over 2 hours becomes quite tricky. And we've had some brilliant questions there, so I appreciate that. Any questions we've not had, we'll try and hoover up in some way, shape or form. But I think now I'll sort of move us on and hand over to Steve to run through the voting on the motions. So Steve, over to you.
Thanks, Alan. Now, for those members that are here in Angel Square, they all have their ballot papers and they are going to be voting on all 12 motions. Could I please ask all of you to cast your votes now? Whilst that's taking place, a member of the team will collect the papers when they have been done and will get completed. Now, as you know, we only have a small number of members voting in Angel Square today, with the majority of our members having given their voting instructions prior to the meeting. I'm therefore going to announce the provisional results this morning. These will be verified and final results published on Monday. I'm going to do this in 2 stages, and the first is for the first 6 set of results. Just waiting for them to come up. Here they are. And so as you can see, these are the provisional results for those first 6 motions, and I'm pleased to say that they have all now been passed. And thank you for voting to reappoint your directors, including me. If we go to the second 6 motions. Again, I can now confirm that they have all been passed, including those from our council and the independent societies on ethical retailing and the support for the wider cooperative movement and climate change. Thank you all for sharing your views on them. These are really important topics. And as I mentioned earlier, the results will be verified and published on our website on Monday. Now for the results for our member-nominated director elections. And as you'll see, Margaret Casey-Ford has been reappointed. Congratulations, Margaret. We'll also put these results on our website. Alan, that now concludes this year's motion, and so back to you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much, Steve, for that. And congratulations to Margaret. Be re-elected as a member-nominated director. She's been an excellent member-nominated director, and I'm pleased to have her reinstated. So thank you very much for that. Before we finish with Steve talking a little bit about the future, I just want a couple of things really. I mean, first of all, I just want to once again say to our colleagues, our members actually, thank you very much for all that you've done, particularly over these last few months where it has been very difficult. And I think we will come out of it, and are coming out of it, stronger than we went into it. And if you can go into something as terrible as this and come out of it stronger than you went into it in all sorts of different ways, that is the biggest tribute you can pay to anybody in any organisation. And so I pay that tribute to all our colleagues and all our members. The second thing is that I heard a great thing the other day which talked about in the new normal, whatever the new normal will be, but actually there are 3 characteristics that organisations and people will require to succeed in that new world. The first one is about resilience, to be resilient, both as individuals and as an organisation. And I think, you know, as an organisation, we showed tremendous resilience over the last few months, and our people have shown incredible resilience over that same period of time. The second is to be brave. And, you know, sometimes you need to be brave in these situations, and there's been a number of questions that have raised today which are really saying to us, step it up, be braver, be brave in some of these things. Now's your time. And so I think we can be brave, and we can be brave and braver as a result of where we are. And the last thing is, when you've been resilient, when you've been brave, be kind. Kindness has come back. Kindness is now important for people. Kindness is the new norm. And we have the capability to be kinder than any other organisation in our communities, the way in which we relate to them. So be resilient, be brave, be kind, be co-op, and cooperate for a fairer world. So thanks for your time today. So far, so good. Hope you enjoyed it. It was different. It's a new thing for us. It may be where the future is. But thank you for joining us. And above everything else, stay safe. I'm now going to hand over to Steve.
As we come to the close of the meeting, I want to finish with some thoughts about the future. Lockdown is slowly starting to ease, and the peak of the infections and the deaths are hopefully behind us. So we need to pause and take stock. We need to consider what this moment means for our co-op, for the communities that we serve, and for us as a nation. We're emerging very slowly from an exhausting and traumatic moment in our history, and we know we've still got a long way to go. As well as the hardships, we've seen overwhelming expressions of kindness, compassion and solidarity. The growing neighbourliness is very welcome, but we've got to turn it from a temporary reaction to a crisis into something that's going to last. There are experiences from recent weeks which we should take with us, and behaviour from before lockdown that we may want to leave behind. So let's aim to go forward to something that's better than the old normal, and let's be ambitious for ourselves and our communities in which we serve. Although no one has been immune to the disruption and fear caused by COVID-19, it's clear that some people are being hit harder than others. And when shocks come, they always come hardest to those already most vulnerable. The experience of lockdown, social distancing, and the illness itself has exposed great unfairness. We know loneliness, mental illness, and domestic abuse is rising and taking place in ways even more hidden than before. It's also clear that homeschooling during lockdown can look vastly different for children who don't have access to IT, the internet, or even just a quiet place to sit. A younger generation of workers are going to be especially badly hit by the recession. The coming economic downturn brings the prospect of a drop in every measure of well-being across the country. Our co-op comes to these challenges with huge experience and significant assets, and that's why we've been able to respond so well over these first few months. This was not a response from a standing start. We are already part of the communities in which we trade. Our local community fund, the unique work of our member pioneers, our new Cooperate platform, and the insight that we have from our Community Wellbeing Index will be essential parts of our co-op response to the longer-term social damage caused by this virus. In decades to come, we will judge ourselves and be judged by others on how well we responded in 2020 and the years ahead. As well as the direct community support that we can give, we're also busy thinking about how our business operations should adapt to the oncoming recession and the fact that the virus will be with us for a long time. Across all parts of our co-op, we've been agile in our business operations, adapting at real pace to the new world. Our ability to achieve rapid change is a way of working that we shouldn't lose as we come out of this emergency. The fact that during this crisis we've become the fastest growing retailer on the high street is no accident. Over these last few years, we've invested in the right things at the right time and in the right places. But we know we have some serious challenges ahead. Our members and our customers will not be immune from the deep recession that's coming in the second half of this year. They will have less money, and that means we'll have less money too. So we have to think carefully about how we use our resources and what we choose to prioritise in those months ahead. There will be some tough choices to make if we're going to get through the economic slump in good shape. And make no mistake, this is not going to be easy. Our funeral business still has big changes to put in place to make sure it can offer what people now expect. But social distancing will be with us for a long time, and that has huge impact on our business model. We're going to have to develop our thinking once again. Our food business will need to keep adapting and watching closely how COVID-19 has changed the shopping habits of the country. Many people have discovered their local co-op for the first time, and we need to keep them coming. The demand for home delivery has grown massively during this crisis. Many people will want to keep shopping that way, and so we're already looking at expanding our own home delivery options. Insurance will need to look at the implications of ongoing foreign travel restrictions and a radical shift in where we work and how we get there. Investing in an online health business is proving to be a smart decision. Now we need to think how best to grow our youngest business as public health becomes a top priority for the country. The world of legal services is changing too. Online consultations may become the norm, and I'm pleased to say that we'd anticipated the move towards digital technology to make the law easier to navigate. We have to keep anticipating the trends across all of our markets if we're to stay ahead of the curve and survive and thrive in these next few years. Our investment in e-commerce to create greater convenience in all of our products and services must continue, and we're going to have to become much more efficient in how we operate. But through all of this necessary change, I commit that we will not lose sight of the values which define us. Our co-op has a long-standing commitment to tackling the climate emergency, and we know that in our new COVID-19 world, sustainability means more than just reducing our use of plastics. Protecting the environment and protecting local communities are not competing business priorities. Rather, they are bound together in our vision, cooperating for a fairer world. At the Co-op, we understand that our commercial performance is just one aspect of the value that we create and return to our members and to the wider society. Every day, we're hearing about a challenging economy in our news. It's important that we don't forget that the economy is not just GDP. It's also our schools, our hospitals, our care homes, our charities and our community volunteers. The economy is all of us, and we all need to be fighting fit in order to rebuild our lives together. Going back to normal isn't going to be good enough, and it's not really an option anyway. The world has moved on. Cooperation now needs to be business as usual. We certainly can't afford the kind of blame games going on at an international level. The challenges before us are too great for that to continue. The economy, health, climate change, none of this can be tackled with a me-first attitude. Either we learn to work together or we fail. It's as simple as that. Our co-op will play its part. We'll show what authentic cooperation looks like in practice as well as in theory. We'll share what we know, we'll work with others, and we'll succeed together. That's how you build a fairer world. It won't be easy, and there's a lot to do. The good news is it's already happening all around us, in every part of our business and in the communities that we serve. As a member of this amazing co-op, you are already part of the future we need to create as we pull through this crisis and look beyond it. So thank you for joining us, thank you for choosing a better way of doing business, and thank you for cooperating for a fairer world.